I'm Chris.
I'm Sandy.
And this is Parenting Autism.
Here we go.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 96 of the Parenting Autism podcast. This should be known as the Recovering from Sickness podcast because we've all been sick, and
I think we still are.
Some of us are getting better.
But I have called this podcast because I feel like so much has happened in the past 2 weeks that we need to unload this because there's so much more happening.
Yes.
And even though I am not feeling my best today, I feel like we still need to do this podcast.
Yeah, it just doesn't ever seem like there's a dull moment. Maybe we should pray for more dull moments.
Well, be careful what you pray for, but
Right.
Be careful with that. I just think we've had a lot of medical appointments on our calendar, more than we've had in a while. Mm-hmm. So when you have different medical appointments that you have to go to, and these aren't like around the corner ones, they're like hours away from our house. And then you add that to that, having colds and being sick when you don't have your full energy, and then trying to keep up with work and school and life. Yeah. It takes its little toll, but
not only does it take a toll,
we should know our audience. They should know life's not easy.
It puts that extra pressure on you too, because you're sick, you fall behind on everything.
Yeah, I definitely feel that.
You just feel low energy and you feel behind. So it's like a double whammy.
It is.
But at least it wasn't COVID.
It's not COVID.
Just a cold.
Just a nasty,
it was a
lingering
relentless
cold. So thankfully, you started us out with it. So I'm kind of looking to you for the hope of it's going to get better. So you seem to be feeling better.
I'm sounding better.
Bryce was a little bit behind you, and I was about 5 days behind Bryce.
You're the caboose.
I am the caboose in the kindest way possible. Oh gosh. But so I thought I was like, let's do this podcast. I want to do this because we're going up to Orlando for Bryce's EEG sleep study tomorrow. And I'm like, we're going to have all that to talk about and these test results. And I thought I was feeling better. And then it's like 2 hours later, all of my energy is just spent. But that's okay. So our plan today is to drive up to Orlando, which is a couple hours from where we live, get in our hotel room, relax this evening. Mm-hmm. And then in the morning, we will go over to the neurologist office where Bryce will have his, has now become an annual EEG sleep study, just to check for any seizure activity.
24 hours.
Yep, mm-hmm. 24 hours. We'll get out of there early Tuesday morning, come home, and then I'll go to work and life will continue.
To the next thing. But it's okay. So talking about what's been going on the past 2 weeks, I think we had mentioned the last time we did a podcast that we were planning to go do his testing at the Southeast Nova Eye and Ear Institute. Nova Southeastern University.
Yeah, sorry. I just totally botched that. But if they Googled, they'd kind of find it.
Yeah.
So it's a couple hours south of us. And we went down a week ago Monday. So it's been almost 2 weeks for the first visit. Mm-hmm. And that was all vision. And they did find some things that were concerning and things that we thought might come to light with that. And they wanted to do more testing. So it just so happened that I had a work 2-day session down about 30 minutes away from where the eye appointment was and the ear appointment. So it worked out good that you and Bryce could come down last week and stay with me at the hotel. And he went back Monday for more eye testing, and then he went for the ear and audio testing on Wednesday. Mm-hmm. And then in between, you took him to the Science Museum down there in Fort Lauderdale. So you can talk about that too. But let's really focus today, I think, on about the eye exam and what we know at this point, and then the ear exam and what we know at this point. And then, of course, we'll be getting test results here in the next week or two, and then we'll be able to share more.
Yeah. So we just learned that, this was a comprehensive eye exam, not like your typical go in, look through the lens and tell the eye doctor which one's clearer, and they dilate your eye and look at your
nothing like what we have for ours.
So the first session was 3 hours of testing, and then the next appointment was an additional 2 hours of testing. So they tested, I think, everything possible on his eyes. And I'd just give a shout out to Dr. Coulter down there. She is amazing and so knowledgeable. And student Dr. Taylor, she was so good with Bryce, and she's going to make a great doctor and a great mom, I think, because she just has a way with kids, and that's a gift, I think. She made everything seem like a game or fun to do, she's like, well, I'm going to have fun, like you tell she's going to have fun with it. And so Bryce had fun with it, and they did all kinds of tests. And I guess from the preliminary discussion, he has some eye teaming issues, which means that when he's looking or reading something, it could almost look like double letters, double vision when he's reading, which would explain why he doesn't like reading very much and he doesn't like writing very much. So all of these things are kind of filling in the puzzle pieces, if you will. And Bryce has had some trouble with phonics and spelling. So the other thing they found with his vision was, what was the other thing? Oh, his peripheral vision. So they measure that too, and it seemed like he could only see things that were directly in front of him. And so we can see things out of what we call the corner of our eye, but when they shined the light in the dome and the light got closer and closer and closer to the middle, straight on, that's when he said he could see it. It was when it was straight up.
Were they asking him? I mean, I wasn't there for that one because I had my work that day, but what were they asking him questions all along? Could he see, or were they just depending on him to speak up?
Yeah. So she told him, when you see the light, say, I see it. So she said, keep looking to me in the middle black dot.
Yeah.
And when you see the light coming from the side, and she was explaining it in different ways for him to understand, tell me when you see it. And he'd say, I see it. But it was already toward the middle, So that's concerning. I think they even disregarded that test because they weren't sure, A, if he understood how to take it, or B, there was some other misunderstanding with him taking the test. So they're going to repeat that when we go back for the results, just to make sure. So, and then it takes about 2 weeks for them to put a whole report together on everything that they tested. And I mean, they tested so many things, I can't even get my head around it, from looking at lines on the paper to finding that shape in another picture, and then reading, and then repeating back what student Dr. Taylor was reading to him, and then she asked him to repeat it backwards, so those types of things. And it was just all different kinds of tests. And so I was very impressed with everything that they did down there, and we're looking very much forward to the final report that's going to help us. And Dr. Coulter also suggested that Bryce get a psychoeducational evaluation, which I don't think I ever heard before. I've never heard of that. And so I think after looking at what it is, I think it's a great idea because it kind of tells us where Bryce is at educational wise, and they will also evaluate his deficits and his strengths and tell us the best way to teach him, which may include certain programs that we don't even know about that might help him in school.
Did they do that for him at the public school on some level? Seems to me like they had somebody testing
saw
him.
That psychiatrist the one time.
Is that what I'm
when
thinking
he
of?
first started speech at that weirdo speech place. Remember that?
Oh.
And then he's like, well, he can't even pay attention. I can't even
that was
test
way,
him.
way back in the day.
That was way back. So he's like, I can't even test him. He won't even pay attention.
Yeah, I remember that. Good luck, buddy.
But that's the only one that I ever remember.
Okay, for some reason I was thinking there was somebody associated with the school as well.
Well, the school...
when he was in the VPK at the public school.
Okay. Well, the school usually does have somebody on staff that's a psychologist, school psychologist that does those types of things. But I don't ever remember him getting one of those. Plus, I mean, now it would be so far behind us that it wouldn't be helpful. But,
for sure.
But so I'm looking forward to that. And then over to the ear doctor. So that was a week later. And that took about 3 hours, right? We were there from 9 to 12.
We were there for 3 hours.
Yeah.
I was able to go to that one.
So,
which I'm glad.
Basically, he was by himself for most of it. He braved it out and said he could do it by himself because the room was small.
It was small.
So they suggested that we, wait out in the waiting room, which we did for most of it. And then they let you come back for one part of it, which we were glad you did because he kind of had a little meltdown on one part of it.
So what happened was similar to what you described with Miss Taylor. The girls, they were younger. They were in their second year of school. Mm-hmm. And they were trying to make it a fun game as well. And so when I went, they had him in one room, like I would say on one side of the wall in the door. Mm-hmm. And then we were on the other side. And they were talking to him through a speaker, which he kind of wigs on that a little bit anyway. He's very sensitive to sounds coming through speakers. So I don't know. Again, we weren't there for the first part, but they said he was doing great and he didn't want to take a break. He was wanting to get it done. Mm-hmm. So everything must have went really well the first round, but this time they were trying to tell him what he was supposed to repeat what he was hearing. And so they actually had words going into his left ear and different words going into his right ear. And then they wanted him to be able to differentiate and tell them what he was hearing in his right ear. So I think they were trying to test the strength of each ear, right?
Yeah.
So there were two girls there, and the one girl was speaking into the microphone, and he would say, why are you doing that? And she's like, well, I'm having to tell you something. And he says, well, why isn't she telling me? And she's like, well, I was taking a break. I was letting her do it. And then I could tell what he was getting at, but I was trying to really be silent and let them kind of work it out. But I had a feeling he didn't like that girl's voice. So he kept asking them in all these different ways. And then finally I said, I think he wants a different voice. And then she goes, are you trying to tell me you don't like my voice? He says, yes. Like, oh,
very matter of fact.
Very matter of factly. And so she's like, oh, well, I can't. And she goes, do you want the other one to talk? He's like, yes. So then when she started talking, he says, okay, that's better. So again, he just has sensitivity to sounds that we can't quite figure out. But they got through that. So that's when they wanted to remind him to do the right ear. And when they did that, he felt like he was being corrected, that he had done something wrong.
Oh.
And if they did not say it in a bad way, if he ever thinks he's doing something wrong, it's grounds for a meltdown for him.
Maybe that's something we can talk to the
it's definitely something
about.
We've got to work on because he's just having a hard time with that.
Yeah, he does. anytime he gets something wrong. And I never get on to him about getting things wrong.
No, so it's not like he gets scolded by any shape.
Yes,
by any shape or form. He just takes that on, and he's always had that. So, in that day, I have to say, he didn't feel well, and none of us felt well. And, he was being a trooper going through all this. I'm sure that makes you more vulnerable to everything. Mm-hmm. But he was angry that he did something wrong. But then he's like crying. And when I stepped in there, he had tears like coming down his face. I felt so badly. So I stepped in and I just reassured him that he didn't do anything wrong. He was doing everything right. They were just, trying to help him remind him to do the right ear, whatever. We kind of got him through that. And then the doctor even came at that point because she was observing from another room. And so then she's like, we can just do this a little bit more and then he can be done with this test. Mm-hmm. They had gotten enough. And that was good.
That section.
Because that section, we kind of needed to wrap that up. So he was able to finish that up. And then he did okay with the rest of it. I mean, he really did.
And again, this wasn't your typical just hearing test, where they just put tones in your ears and ask you if you can hear it.
No. And then they were wanting him to, so then the one girl asked him for this other test. Do you know how to hum? He's like, no. She's like, He's like, no, I don't like that. And she's like, do you not know how to hum? He's like, no, I don't like humming. So she's like, oh, well, can you? And I said, well, what about what you do with your game? And he goes, well, I do da, 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 da. And they're like, okay, yeah, you can do da, 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 da. So basically they wanted him to hear inflections. So to know, is it a lower tone or a higher tone? Mm-hmm. And for him to repeat that back.
Match the tone.
To match the tone. Mm-hmm. And so once we got to the da, 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 we were good. And he actually did that. He did it really well. And the doctor said that because we had started music therapy with him and the music lessons with him, that she could tell a big difference because he could recognize tone, mm-hmm. and that comes from music. So I know we're going to get the full test results, but basically what she explained to us is he has
audiological processing disorder.
Yep.
That's what it is.
Audio processing disorder. Yeah, something like that. But what I was going to say is she described it as a large highway between each side of the brain. And his ears themselves and his eardrums and everything are perfect. It's just the way his brain processes the information. So I've always known instinctually that we needed to try to tap into that other side of his brain and try to get that creative part going, which is why we honed in on music and why we've honed in on art as much as we have. And so I'm grateful for that and that we got that started for him, a few years ago and keep building on that. But she said there's definitely one ear that is worse than the other ear. And that may just have to do with that information not getting back to that ear correctly. So it gets a little complicated. I'll be curious to see what it all is in writing. I started to take notes and she reminded me, you'll get everything in writing. I'm like, you're right. Okay. I don't need to write all this down. Mm-hmm. We'll get it. But I was just trying to remember like key words and key concepts there that we had learned. But with both things, I think they're insightful already that we're on the right path of taking the next level of helping Bryce. Mm-hmm. And they have therapies that are available. She said a lot of it with the audio is related to OT. They were even asking about his vestibular and testing some of that. And then she also had recommended this other doctor who specializes in the hypersensitivity that Bryce has to sounds.
To those loud, unexpected sounds.
And that's something that he actually specializes in. And he's maybe there's an hour and a half away from us instead of 2 hours. Yeah. So a little bit closer. But that's okay. And because, we've mentioned on the past few episodes of the podcast that his hearing just seems to be getting more sensitive, or at least he's verbalizing it more. In fact, since we did the last podcast, you were just starting to get sick. So it was 2 weeks ago today when Bryce and I went to church because we weren't sick yet. And when we got there, he asked if he could go to the buddy room, which is the little quiet room, not with all the kids. And so I had him I said, why is that? And he goes, because I want this to be a good day, Mommy. So I was like, okay. So when Miss Lisa came, I said, Bryce, I want you to tell Miss Lisa what you just told me. So he tried to say it in his own way. And so I just told her, I said, he seems concerned about going in there. So then she's like, well, she asked him a couple of different questions. And I guess they recently changed it again. And again, we go to a really large church. So there are a lot of kids in there and there's a lot of noise going on. And so she was going to take him to a quieter area to appease him that day. So that was fine. And I felt okay leaving him. When I went and picked him up, he didn't have headphones on because we have to give them back. And we're walking through the lobby. And sometimes at our church, this is something new, but they've started doing like a baptism right there in the lobby. I guess so people can witness baptism, right? So I didn't even think about it. And Bryce had seen the baptism maybe last month when they did it or the month before. So he was a little curious, but it was loud. Like I was aware of how loud it was just in general, like the buzz of all the voices talking. So I knew I needed to get him out. But what I wasn't anticipating was right after they baptized that person, everybody would erupt clapping and yelling because they're excited and celebrating. Yeah. Oh my goodness. I feel so bad for him. So the positive thing, I'm always looking for progress, is he did not drop to the floor. And trust me, he would have dropped to the floor before this was a trigger. He was able, I put my hands over his ears immediately. And I just kept saying, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And I'm like trying to get him through the people and out the door. So I got him through, got him to the truck. I apologized again. I said, Bryce, I really had no idea that they were going to clap like that. I'm so sorry. And in my head, I knew right then, we're just going to put headphones on him from the time we leave the truck until we get back. That's just going to be what it is. Yeah. And then when I was sharing this with you, you said, we're just going to have to put headphones on him from the time I said, yes, I've already thought about that. I agree. Again, it's like one of these things that I want to try to introduce him to, quote unquote, the real world and try to help him get, adjusted to hearing these sounds and being able to develop his coping mechanisms and things like that. And so I can see the progress to where, again, he didn't drop to the ground, which he would have before when we had that happen. But I also don't want him to see church as a place he doesn't want to go to because he's afraid there's going to be something that scares him with the sounds, So it's a delicate balance that we have to work with. And if it's something we can control, then I would like to be able to control it. I don't know.
He seems to be able to push through those types of situations when it's worth it to him. So, like, if church is fun enough, then he will go to that sensory intense environment to have some fun. So, like, another example is the science museum that we went, the Discovery Science Museum in Fort Lauderdale, which is a very large museum, and they have a lot of stations there, and it's really cool. But there's one station in particular where you used air to shoot a ball over an arch to the other side, and then the person at the other side would push buttons to fill it up, the chamber, with air, and then you push another one to release it, and then the ball shoots back to the other side. So the first time we went there, excuse me, we're still recovering. The first time we went there, I had his headphones on, so it wasn't a big deal. But the second visit, I forgot the headphones in the truck, and we did basically the whole museum except for that one station that happened to be one of his favorite things to do. And so he's like, Daddy, I need my headphones for this. And I'm like, why do you need your headphones for it? I said, we've already done this. We already did this yesterday, and you kind of know what it sounds like. And of course it was just, Daddy, we need to go get my headphones. So I'm like, okay. So we went and got his headphones and we played with that machine. But it just must be certain sounds that maybe they're painful to him. Something in his brain does not like certain sounds, and it's like a whooshing sound. Like, so he doesn't like when people do the shush, like the shh, and this had a loud shush sound to it when the ball would launch, right? So I don't know if it's that frequency of sound or what that just causes him, because normally it's loud, unexpected sounds that get him, but this was expected. When you push the button, you're going to get the sound. So it's very interesting to me, and like you said, I'm looking forward to the report.
Right. And I think this is it. We're just trying to understand how, it all comes down to the brain. How does his brain process these sounds? And
really, we wouldn't have done any of this, really. I mean, the only clues that we had, we obviously knew he had the hearing thing with loud sounds, but, he has trouble with phonics. He has trouble spelling. He doesn't like reading or writing. And, you hear that a lot in our community with kids with autism. So you're like, okay, well, there's really, it is what it is. It's just one of the characteristics of having autism. But lo and behold, we found, this vision test and this hearing test that's helping us walk through this journey with him. And it's going to help us teach him better at home, knowing that he has some issues. And I don't know if these vision issues are from his stroke that he had when he was a baby.
Right.
Or is it genetic? Is it autism? But in any case, I would highly recommend just having that done if you have any indication that you're on the path that we're on, like with Bryce. It was eye-opening for us.
Yeah, I feel like it's been beneficial for sure. What's going to come of this, I don't know, but I feel like we have a better understanding of how Bryce's brain is processing information. And that's really what we're trying to find. It is very difficult still to understand what Bryce is trying to tell us a lot of the times, especially if it's something that he doesn't, like it's not a familiar conversation that he's heard that he's able to repeat back, okay? Because Bryce learns a lot from, if he's heard somebody say it, okay, then he's learned how to repeat that and apply it
to
his world or to what he's trying to tell us. He's trying to tell us, like, that he has a headache. He has a hard time even telling us that. I mean, when he was starting, thankfully he was not sick for that very first day that we took the eye test, but he got sick that night. He started running fever, and then he said, I have pain in my head. He told me when he got out of the bathtub. I'm like, what do you mean you have pain in your head? Can you point to it? I don't know. It's pains in my head. Where are they? And then he's pointing right at his neck, and then he's pointing up above his neck, and then he's pointing to the side of his head. And, well, maybe, do you have a headache? Does it hurt there? Does it feel like? I don't know. I just know I need help. Okay, maybe he has a headache. And then I took his temperature. Oh, he's running a fever. Okay, that's why he's trying to tell us. Okay, so let's give him some Motrin, because we try not to give him medicine either, because we want his body to not get immune to that and be very responsive when he truly needs it. So we avoid antibiotics, and we do what we need to do, but not unless we really need to do it. So we gave him the Motrin, and I'm like, oh, he's got your cold, man. Okay. So he really didn't say much more about that. But then this morning, before you got up, he said to me, Mommy, I need you to help me. I need help with my eyes. I'm like, why you need help with my eyes? I can't see good. What can't you see good? I couldn't see you good. I said, well, what did I look like? You looked fuzzy. I'm like, what do you mean I looked fuzzy? I need help. I need some medicine to help me. I said, what do you need medicine for? Well, my head hurts. Oh, where does your head hurt? I mean, it's like all going on one conversation. Mm-hmm. So then again, he's pointing to the back of his head, his neck, and then to the side of his head. I said, well, do you have a headache again? I don't know. I said, well, okay. Let me ask you. I said, I need you to really listen to me here and answer these questions. So I took this little orange cup that was on the counter. I said, I want you to look at this. Can you see this cup? Can you see it good? He goes, yes. I said, is it fuzzy? No. Okay. And what do I look like now? Am I fuzzy? No, I can see you good now. I said, okay, good. I said, he goes, I couldn't see you when you were in your bedroom. I said, okay, so I was far away, but it was also dark. So he was, quite a far distance from me, but it was dark. So maybe he doesn't know how to describe fuzzy. Maybe I was just in the shadows, so he couldn't see me well. And that's what I'm saying. It's so complicated with him because he just doesn't quite know how to describe what he's seeing. He doesn't quite know what words to use to describe how he's feeling. And that can make it complicated when he's being tested as well, with these doctors, and he's trying to answer their questions. And if we're not there to add any input, he's really kind of on his own out there trying to communicate with them.
I think he's okay with like the big picture, but yes, when you need details, that's when it gets hard.
Yeah, and I was trying to explain to somebody, maybe it was one of those, it might have been when we were at the vision test, I don't know, but I was saying he has his first layer of language, and he does. He knows the basic words, but when you try to get into the second and third layer of language and more descriptive words, it's harder for him to know to use those or to even understand those, communicate and comprehend those. Mm-hmm. And, and he can get through life with the first layer for the most part, but we want to continue to help. I mean, again, he's 9, I get that, but we still want to just continue to find ways that are going to help him develop. So you had asked specifically how we could help him with his education. I mean, it's great that he is homeschooled because once again, if he was in a typical classroom environment, he would not be able to get that one-on-one. He wouldn't be able to stay at his pace. I think extra testing that you can get at the public school when you have that in your IEP, I honestly don't even think that would benefit him. Mm-hmm. I think, what were you sharing that you were teaching him the story about the Trojan horse, right?
Oh, yeah. So his curriculum, for the most part, is video-based. So we watch a video and then answer questions. So we're doing language arts, and they were telling him the myth about the Trojan horse. And while the lady was reading the story, and the book is on the screen, so you can follow along with the words while she's reading it. So kind of like you're getting it audibly and you're getting it visually. Mm-hmm. And so it took me a couple minutes to get him engaged to listen to the story. But once we got him engaged with the course, then she read through it, and then we got to the questions. And then they took a section of the story and they say, what was this section of the story about? Was this about the people of Greece singing, or was it about the people of Greece being inside the wooden horse? And answer B is the main theme of the story. And he's like, Daddy, I don't know the answer to this. I don't understand. I said, okay. And I know, I'm there with him. So I was watching him watch the video. He was listening to what she was saying, but it wasn't registering. And that could go back to the audiological processing disorder. So I said, would it be helpful if I drew the story on the whiteboard? And he said, yes. Yes, that would help me. I said, okay. So I drew the horse, and I drew the army of Greece, and I drew the fortress for the Trojans, and the gates to the city. And I just used arrows and stick people. I'm not a good drawer. It was bad, but he was listening to me, and I was giving him little nuggets as I was drawing. So he was involved, he was engaged. And then once I finished the story, we did the questions, and he got all the questions correct without help. So
I find that really enlightening,
Yeah.
as we're trying to teach him certain things. I heard him asking you too, like, what's moral? What's the moral? Like, he's trying to understand when they say, what's the moral of the story?
What's the lesson?
He couldn't understand what they meant by what's the moral of the story.
Yeah. And we've touched on that, before in school, morals of the story, but how much of that did he absorb? Did he actually get the concept? But
no, but that's the first time he's actually inquired as to what it means.
Yeah.
So it's progress,
it's
right?
Good. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just an ongoing puzzle solving.
It is.
Situation over here at the Coulters. One other thing I jotted down, and I couldn't even tell you what day this was, but he's been having trouble with, like, he'll feel an anger emotion. He's wanting us to help him work through that. So I've actually just started praying with him and giving him a Bible verse about, letting the anger go and that sort of thing. So I said, if you pray and you ask God to take away that anger and to give you, the spirit to be happy, then that would be good. So we're working on that. But he's trying to describe it to me, and he says, my computer is scribbling. And I said, well, what do you mean your computer is scribbling? This is how he feels when he's angry. My computer is scribbling. I'm like, well, what does that mean? He goes, well, my joystick is spinning out of control, and I hurt myself.
Wow.
So that's Bryce's words to tell me how his emotions are making him feel.
And I'll elaborate on that. The other day, when he was worrying about something, he described it as, he said, Daddy, there's a button that releases all my worries, he said. But in my brain, there's a cage over that button. And I'm like, wow. I mean, that's just...
He's trying to tell us.
Wow.
I know.
mean, I said, how do you remove the cage? And he says, I can't remove the cage. And then another conversation, he'll say, my brain told me to do it, or, if he hits the table or something, if he's mad, my brain just told me to do it. But I like how his music therapist, Mr. Tom, who is amazing, is working with him now with songs.
Yeah.
So they're recording instruments into his little laptop computer, and he asked Bryce, let's do a song. What do you want to do a song about? And then they did a song about his worries. And by the end of the song, Mr. Tom says, well, we got rid of all of Bryce's worries today. And
I was laying down in the bedroom, and I could hear them through the wall. And he was saying, well, where is it at? And then Bryce was telling me, he goes, well, does this sound like your worries? And they would like pick a tone that sounded like worries. And then they would come in with a really nice, happy tone to make the worries go away, which is great. And then that reminds me that, I think it was the night before last, Bryce was having a hard time going to sleep in his room. And so, I prayed with him, and then I gave you the night off because you're exhausted, and I've been taking the early bedtime all week because I have felt the worst. So I said, that's okay. You go ahead and go to bed, and then I'll get him in. And so I got him into bed, and I went in our room. I thought, I don't know if he's going to stay there. He seemed pretty alert. He came back, and I said, I think you can do this. And he tried again. So then finally I just went in there with him. So, because I told him, when you're laying there, you can pray, you can talk to God. He goes, but if I do that out loud, I'll be awake. I said, well, you can still do it in your head. I said, sometimes that helps me to fall asleep. No, I don't know. So when I went and laid down with him, he was quiet, and I could tell he was trying to go to sleep. And I said, "What are you thinking about?" And he said, "I'm thinking about the water, the music that plays under the water. It's really nice and peaceful. It's nice and calm." That's what he told me. I said, "Well, that's a good thing to be thinking about." And then within minutes, he was asleep. So I made a mental note that I wanted him to play that sound for me on his game. And so I asked him yesterday if he would play that for me. And then he brought it over to me later. He goes, "Mommy, this is the sound that I was listening to in my brain to help me fall asleep." And it was peaceful. And I said, "Oh, I can see why you like that one. That's a nice calm noise." So teaching him to tap into those thoughts and tap into music and the sound, he's going into the other side of his brain, which is always great. And it's helping him to be calm. And that's what we need him to do. So, maybe when he's feeling these angry emotions, as I'm talking to you about this, maybe we should tell him to think about those calm music. Not just the deep breaths, because that does help you calm. But sometimes he gets aggravated if you tell him to take a breath. Like, you know what? Get over the deep breaths, people. I'm done with it. Okay. So, but maybe if we say, "Oh, think about your music song, your underwater song," something that can kind of trigger his brain to go to that happier place and that calm place. Maybe that's what we can do for him. So, that's kind of the path we're on right now.
Yeah. So to switch gears, I've been updating our blog on our website, parentingautismshow.com. So I've been adding some blog articles on there, anywhere from B12 injections, how they help, folinic acid. There's a blog post about eye exams, mitochondria, psychoeducational evaluations. I've been busy. Yeah. So a bunch of good stuff on there. If you want to head over there to the website, click on blog, and then you can check those out. And if you want to reach out to us, parentingautism@att.net, or we have that new phone number that I can't remember offhand. So, but it was in a prior episode.
It was.
Yeah.
Please don't ever feel like you would be a burden if you reach out to us. We always look forward to that. And we do get back to people. And it's always good to hear from other families. And I've enjoyed connecting with other families, and we're an encouragement to each other on this journey. And it's really nice that way. The silver lining this past week, being so sick, is that our Philadelphia Eagles are in the Super Bowl next Sunday. So there's a shout out to all our Eagle fans that may be podcast listeners. We're excited. And though I may not sound like it at this moment, trust me, we are. And Bryce is excited about it. And that makes me happy because he knows that when the Eagles win, it makes Mommy happy.
And he's happy too.
He is.
He woke up the other morning saying, "Oh, the Eagles beat the 49ers. We're going to the Super Bowl. I'm so happy.
I hope they win.
I hope we win." Yeah.
Plus, he knows that he gets gluten-free Domino's pizza when Eagles play. So we've made it a fun thing for him.
Have you mentioned his project raising money for the Autism Walk?
I did mention it on the last podcast episode. So, we are planning to go to Philadelphia in the middle of May for the Eagles Autism Fundraiser Walk. And they have a sensory path that will be perfect for Bryce at this age. And it's something I've been wanting to do for a long time, but we feel like Bryce is ready for it now. And so we've been getting donations for paintings that he's doing. And we call it his golden... glitter
glue.
Yeah, golden glitter art pieces.
Okay. What are the words that he will put on
So
there?
he will do either joy, hope, or love.
Okay.
Because he doesn't want them to be long words.
So he paints the background whatever color you want, and then he uses his special gold glitter glue that he holds on to like it's running out and he'll never have any more. And then he'll use the glitter glue to write your word on the canvas. And we ship it out. So
right now he has canvases hanging in Alabama. Where's the other state? Alabama, Florida, and
I'm just drawing. Oh, Nevada.
Wow, cool.
Let me say it correctly. Nevada. No, it's Nevada. Yeah. So anyway, I don't want to offend the people because she always like, it's Nevada, not Nevada. Okay,
so
Nevada.
So if a listener wants one of these, how do they?
I would email us.
Okay.
Yeah. So, or through Messenger, either way.
Yeah. So we need to raise a bunch of money for the trip.
We're halfway there.
That's amazing.
For the fundraising part.
So basically $15 covers the cost of shipping and supplies. So anything you donate over the $15 will actually go toward our trip and fundraising. So if you want something like that, we surely would appreciate your
and I just
contribution.
Posted some on the Instagram and the Facebook walls where we had made a delivery yesterday, actually a couple of deliveries yesterday, and people are also sending me pictures when they're hanging on their wall so we can share that.
Nice.
Yeah, and really it's not about us. This is good for Bryce. Like he's so excited about it.
He's enjoying it.
He wants to do it. Again, we're tapping into that creative side. Even, I know you're kind of laughing about the glitter glue because it was a big deal, like especially all things golden he doesn't want to get rid of.
Yeah.
But he had 5 or 6 bottles, maybe more than that people were even giving him as gifts so that he would use it so that he wouldn't worry about it running out.
But he was hoarding them.
He was hoarding them. But now we've kind of overcome that obstacle and he's using it and he knows because it's bringing people happiness and love and hope.
Yeah.
So it's just a really great project altogether. So thanks to everyone who's a listener who has already ordered. And if anybody else wants to, Bryce would love that and we would love that as well. Mm-hmm. He doesn't want to talk today. We asked him if he wanted to come in and answer any questions or talk to the people. But he's taking a rain check today, so we'll try to get him in here maybe the next time. I'm going to go get a little more rest before we hit the road, and then we'll check in next time with some test results and how the EEG went and whatever else happens in our world.
Sounds good. That's a wrap for episode 96. We're getting close to 100 now.
Yeah, I have to think of something special to do, but I don't know what that'll be.
What is that going to be? Okay.
I don't know. All right.
Anyway, signing off.
Have a great week.
You too.
Bye. You too.
I don't know. What was that? You too. Have a great week, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.